Well, I think the causes that are known in the physio world and the causes that are thought of to the general public are actually quite different. So, Ben Bond, I'm the physio here at Absolute Health and Performance. So shin splints are a kind of a complex diagnosis for any pain around the shin. I suppose the general public perceives shin splints as being pain around the inside or the front of the shin when they're doing activities such as running. There's actually a few different, I suppose, diagnoses that come into play that our role as physios, it's really integral that we kind of delve a little bit deeper into what is actually causing this shin pain. So there's a few different things that can cause shin pain. The most common one will be some inflammation around the tibia, which is the shin bone itself. That can either come from the front of the shin or the inside of the shin. Other things that we do need to be wary of with people that present with shin pain are things like compartment syndrome, which is a different diagnosis, which can present with similar kind of symptoms. And then also on a little bit more of a serious note, shin pain that is a little bit more isolated and a bit more specific can be the result of actually a stress reaction or stress fracture within the tibia. So our approaches for these different kind of diagnoses or pathologies do change drastically. Well, I think the causes that are known in the physio world and the causes that are thought of to the general public are actually quite different. So I think the public perceptions of shin splints might be things like flat feet causing their pain, their footwear causing their pain, or the surface that they're running on being too hard. That's actually not necessarily true, and the research has shown to have minimal evidence, I suppose, for those things being the reasons. As physios, our job is to kind of delve in and find out what is causing the pain, and the most likely things with shin splints are generally, well, we talk about load, but generally overload. So that kind of comes into a couple of different facets, whether people are actually doing, you might have a runner that hasn't run for 5 years and they're just starting to do some running. So they're doing too much running too quickly. Or more on the elite side of things, you might actually have a runner who's quite experienced and running at a really high level that has just decided to have a real increase or a spike in their training, and that can actually be the cause of things. So load is definitely one thing. We talk about a client's or a person's capacity in their muscles and their tissues to actually deal with load. So if someone is quite weak in certain areas, it may be around their gluteals, it may be around their calf muscles, or it might be certain muscles in their foot. That can definitely contribute to them having shin splints. I suppose some people that we see do tend to overtrain, and they train too consecutively and they don't recover well enough as well. So we're really big as physios on promoting a gradual increase in load, but then also incorporating some really good recovery strategies. Rest is not always best, as you might have heard before. So with something like shin splints and with bone healing, it actually needs a certain amount of load to facilitate some remodeling. So generally, shin splints involve some inflammation around the bone. If we rest completely and then we start running again, in terms of our load, we're having a big increase in load very quickly. So if we can find a comfortable level for people to run at and continue to run, then that'll be the best thing. And if we can work at some strategies in the background as we're building their strength, maybe changing their running style slightly or altering their overall load, then that's the best thing. So generally, rest is not always best, and I'll always try and continue people running in some capacity. So we like to track load, and I think a lot of the time people don't think they're doing too much, or people don't think they're doing too little, and until we actually implement things such as a training diary or some sort of formal load monitoring, it becomes really evident really quickly where the errors are in their training load. So I'll generally get people to implement a training diary based on not only how far they run, but what surfaces, at what speed, at what intensity, and that gives us a good idea of the loads that they're putting through their body. It's not always running in which we build the load. It's one important strategy for it, but strength training is really, really important. So we recommend that, obviously depending on your level of running, that if you can implement 2 to 3 lower limb strengthening sessions a week, focusing on specific exercises around the quadriceps, the calves and the gluteals, then that's been shown to help with your running efficiency and increase your strength in those areas that will take some pressure off your shin when you do run. $1 million question, yeah, and I think it's really dependent on a lot of individual factors. I think the number one thing is it depends how long people have had shin pain for. So if someone presents to me and they've had shin pain just for a week, generally a lot of these training errors occur 4 to 6 weeks before we actually start to get symptoms. So if someone's had pain for a week, we can generally reverse things quite quickly with altering training load or those contributing factors. If someone's had pain for 6 to 12 months constantly, things are obviously going to take a little bit longer. So it's really variable and there's no specific answer, but I think generally the shorter that you've had pain, the quicker we can have a turnaround and work back into some really consistent running within sort of 4 to 6 weeks of that point in time. And then the longer that you have had pain, generally it can take a little bit longer to turn around, and you'll be looking at someone who's, as an example, had shin pain for up to 12 months, that you're looking at probably a good 6 to 12 weeks to build some good strength and training strategies, and then you can expect to be back to running pretty well pain-free.